Double Sports Talk Worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now, we got some legends coming back, and I wasn't going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you because I really am not so interested. But it's good for boxing. I'm going to tell you why. You got Mike Tyson, the legend, versus Roy Jones Jr., one of the best boxers ever. I would just say that without even, whatever. For me, as far as the wild factor goes, Roy Jones Jr. is the baddest dude I've ever seen, period. Best heavyweight for me is Lennox Lewis, but Roy Jones Jr., you're going to have to go with Roy Jones. But him and Mike Tyson are way past it, and I wasn't going to really talk about it. But it's good for boxing. It's good for boxing. And it's good for boxing because of the fact that it's going to force the current boxers, to fight good fights. Because let me tell you something, the casual world of boxing is buzzing aplenty. Okay, people are buzzing about Mike Tyson coming back, even though he lost his last 4 or 5 fights. And it's 20 years later. But it's still Mike Tyson. I was biting people's ears, I was crazy, and I had a knockout string that was awesome. Everybody respects Mike Tyson the world over. Right? When they introduce him, what they say, doesn't need an introduction the world over. That is true when it comes to Mike Tyson. So Mike Tyson coming back, and it should be that way with Roy Jones. When you talk boxing fans, when you say Roy Jones, boxing fans be like, yeah, Roy Jones, don't mess with him. Everybody knows that. So and Roy, he did fight and beat John Ruiz in the heavyweight division. So it's good, but I'm worried about both of these guys. I think they should be, I think they should be headgear when you start hitting them 50s. But okay, they're gonna have to fight. That's why it's good for boxing because it's gonna make people fight. Another thing is in September the date. They're taking the September date, the Mexican holiday, which is bad for Canelo, right? It's bad for Canelo Alvarez because that's his date. Well, you were supposed to be his date. We seen him miss that date last year because he didn't want to fight undisputed against Demetrius Andrade. He could have fought. Right now, he's looking for opponents, and all of the names are ridiculous. Right? And what has happened with Canelo is he's disgusted Oscar De La Hoya. I'm telling you, that's why Oscar De La Hoya is talking about coming back, talking about fighting hard fighters. He is absolutely disgusted with Canelo because I used to think it was not Canelo's fault, but Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy and fans. No, Canelo don't want to fight nobody, Andrade, okay, or Charlo. And let me tell you something. Not only is Canelo Oscar De La Hoya disgusted, so is the Zone. Seen an article yesterday. They're disgusted that he won't fight nobody. They keep talking about Gennady Golovkin because he's under contract. They won't mention Andrade much because they know that you can't even mention Andrade. But that's what they're disgusted about. If you're an executive and you spending money and you got Andrade under contract, Canelo under contract, and Golovkin under contract, and you got somebody saying I ain't gonna fight neither one of them, right? Canelo, now he'll fight Golovkin. Now Golovkin don't want to fight neither one of them either because he's going to fight Samaretta. So you have all these guys there, and two of them are not going to fight somebody hard. So the Zone is disgusted. And that's what's up. All this money, and they won't even fight the other guys. And that's what's going on. And let me just say something to you guys before I get on. It's not only about Canelo. Bottom line is, remember this, always. Frankenstein. When you see Frankenstein, the monster come, and you say, that's Frankenstein. That's not. Frankenstein is the one who created the monster. You understand? Which, at the end of the day, is the monster. If you create a monster, then you're the monster, actually. The monster don't know what he's doing. This is like, well, shoot, I'm supposed to do what my creator told me to do, right? Trump couldn't do what he's doing if there wasn't a monster who created him. If America was 92% to 8 didn't want Trump in there, he wouldn't be acting up. But he's acting up because people are like, yeah, right? Canelo hasn't had to fight anybody hard and was able to do all these things. And his fans are like, yeah. Manny Pacquiao didn't want to fight Floyd Mayweather because he was doped back in 2009 and then didn't even take a dope test against Thurman. You can't say nothing about that. So why, and if you say something about it, they don't like you, right? And he could keep doing it. Yeah, that's why he's going to keep doing that. Anthony Joshua didn't have to fight Deontay Wilder because fans were like, yeah, don't fight him. Gennady Golovkin was the best middleweight in 25 years. Ain't had to fight nobody. Vanis Monterose and Steve Rose fought Chinko, didn't have to readdress it. Now he's going to fight Samaretta. Still in the top 5 pound for pound. Yeah. We or you create these monsters. but other ones don't have, have to fight hard fighters, right? This is what's going on. So when you got Mike Tyson and Roy Jones stealing your date and stealing the headlines from these fighters because they're not fighting anything. If Canelo would have last year said, I got Demetrius Andrade for undisputed, boom. If Canelo would have said last month, I'm going to fight Charlo on September the 12th, boom. Roy Jones and Mike Tyson wouldn't have took that date. Because on the 12th, Charlo and Canelo would have dominated. Charlo or Canelo and Andre would have dominated the date. But Canelo versus who knows who ain't going to be nothing. That's what's going down. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this is going forward. I'm not really interested in those two fighting because I'm a little fearful for Roy Jones and mess with this heavyweight. And I just think a left hook. Roy Jones has been stopped too many times recently. But let's see what happens in the fight. I just think because of that fight, it's going to force some people to do some stuff. Now let's just sit back and watch what Canelo's going to do because he's only got about 6 weeks to the September date that is so important that I know is a bunch of BS because if it was so important, everybody, all of his fans would have said, hey, Demetrius Andrade for undisputed last year on that date. And they didn't. They let him go away talking about Kovalev 2 weight divisions higher in September somewhere. Doesn't that sound familiar to what they're doing to Pacquiao right now? Hey, go 2 divisions up, get your ninth title, the ninth division, and fighting Golovkin instead of just Terrence Crawford where you are now in the unification. So we will fight Golovkin instead of Terrence Crawford. We'll fight Kovalev instead of Demetrius Andrade. Somebody awesome, not only good, awesome in your division. But we'll go 2 weight divisions up because that's a deflection. Hey, at least it sounds cool, right? It's a lot of BS, but you can get away with it in boxing. But with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson and others, let Mike Tyson take care of Roy Jones easy. Then you're going to start seeing some other names, right? Holyfield's already training. He's training with the Klitschko's. Speaking of them, one of them could come back. David Haye could come back. Lennox Lewis could come back. You can mess around and like Tyson's doing, try to have a league, and that league's gonna mess around and take some shine from the current fighters if they don't fight hard fights. And Canelo, Gennady Golovkin are two of them, right? Canelo's really going. I'm really interested to see who we're gonna fight now. Because bring out Quigley, you better not fight him on the same date as Tyson and Roy Jones. Let's see what happens. Doma Sports Talk worldwide, and I'm up out of here, y'all.